Hi, and welcome to another edition of AI Impact and Strategy. A couple months ago, I interviewed Tom Brazil, and he shared with us how AI agents are improving his work, his productivity, and the work in his firm. Since then, a lot has happened. Tom's made a lot of progress, and I wanted to touch base with him, catch up with him, and find out what's new. Now, what's new is a lot of pretty interesting stuff that he's doing, but he's very matter of fact in how he describes it. So I want you to really pay close attention because what he's saying is actually very profound, not only for what he's able to do today with AI, but for what it says about where AI is heading tomorrow. One of the things that Tom talks about here is how they're using AI agents in the competitive bidding process. I think you'll find that very interesting. He also talks about how agents are partnering with other agents to get work done, both autonomously and automatically. So let's talk about agents.
Sure.
As you know, we've been working on this book. You were kind enough to contribute material, particularly to the Agentics chapter, but I also used some of your stuff in a couple of other places. And it's clear that Agentics is the sort of the wave that's going to happen in 2025 and 2026. And as you know, in the book, we talk about the 5 waves of AI, and Agentics are definitely part of the next couple of waves, or sort of the central parts of the next couple of waves. So I wanted to tap into your expertise and ask you more about how you create agents, what tools you use, how you use agents, et cetera, because I think it's such an important topic that people are very, very interested in.
How we create agents. So we tried originally all of the frameworks that are out there, like N8N and AGPT for AutoGPT, etc. They were too generic in our estimation. And when I say too generic, I mean we built our agents based on a very refined tailoring for their capabilities. So, for instance, in the organization, we'd have one that is a human resources policy expert. So we'd train an agent deeply on our HR policies and procedures, and we train other agents on a variety of different things. We're at about 90 different agents now, and we use them individually without problem. But then we realize that there's a lot of use cases in our business on a daily basis where we have to use multiple together. And so we created something called the AI Agent Workflow Orchestrator. And that is basically like in Lord of the Rings, it's the ring to rule them all. This was the agent to rule them all. And what I mean by that is it's in charge of determining how to solve a problem. So it uses the reasoning aspect, and part of its training is specifically understanding the purpose and capabilities of every other agent. With this detailed knowledge, you can pose any problem in our business to the agent, to the workflow orchestrator agent, and it will develop and execute the workflow necessary to come up with a solution. That's very, very unique because you don't know what the workflow is going to be. You don't know the sequence of events or the order of events that it's going to choose to determine how it has to piece together the information in order to, at the end, come up with a solution to your problem, whatever it is. So we just put a front end onto it, so any person in our company can submit a problem, attach any documents that might help in context of their problem, etc. And then the orchestrator will go ahead and design the workflow for all the other agents that it needs to solve the problem. Might be as little as 2 or 3. I've seen it go up to 12 in order to get the right information it needs to coalesce it all into a final solution. That's the difference, for us is it's completely autonomous and automated. We don't instruct it how to perform a certain task. We just say, here's the capabilities of all the other agents, and it knows that. And every time we add a new agent, we update its training to make sure it knows about what's available. And so that's kind of what's different about ICS. And I see a lot of people talking about the other frameworks, and I'm just not satisfied with it. They're just too generic.
Can you talk about how complicated it is to train these agents?
It's not very. Everything that you need is all open source today. The ability to use a base LLM as an example, and then to recursively train and add additional data sets, let's say, to that base models, that's all open source. Everything is open source. All the frameworks you need, all the glue you need to tie everything together, it's all open. So It's just how we've done it is a little bit different. That's all.
The 90 agents. Every time I talk to you, it's a higher number, by the way. And the other area to explore productivity and financial benefit that you're getting from this. I mean, what you're describing is something that could more than double your productivity, I would assume.
It's way beyond doubling. It's our first interview, it was 20x. We talked about that, and
Yeah, yeah.
that it's not a joke. All right, so I'll go through some of the list of agents the orchestrator is trained on. Risk management framework, expert framework called NIST SB 853. It's very important for DoD programs. Of course, you know about the AI superintelligence agent. We
Right.
have the Agile Innovation Management Expert Agent. Which is trained on your book and mine, by the
Oh,
way.
cool. That's great.
Yep. Our business acquisition procedure agent. This is how we actually acquire and service our various government contracts. We have a lot of agents that are trained on individual programs that we operate, their performance tasks, their deliverables, and things like that. So if you need to be able to understand, what's the schedule for this next week, and what deliverables do we have to put together. A contract teaming negotiation expert. All right, so we do a lot of that. A cyber resiliency expert, some expertise on Air Force and DoD acquisitions, federal acquisition expert, a defense federal acquisition expert. So instead of having to go to lawyers, a DoD test and evaluation expert. Right, so how do you test these, ACAT 1, ACAT 2 systems, cloud computing experts, business systems requirements experts, and then some utilities like Excel expert, Word expert.
How many people are involved in training these agents and creating and
Well,
training?
originally it was just me, but
Yeah.
then once I trained other people, they're just taking off and doing their own now. So it's like our HR director, she's just picked it up so fast, it's ridiculous. So yeah, she's built entire frameworks herself based on this. So
So how are you dealing with hallucinations and misalignment and stuff like that?
you have a source problem, right? So you tell them what the problem is that you need to solve. You ask for them to generate the response, and then you start another session with another agent of the same name, right? So the same named agent. You feed that response in and have it validated for accuracy, and it finds problems.
Ah,
And then you ask it to correct it, and it'll correct it. And you take that and you start a third session
okay.
and say, now validate this. And then literally it's just autonomous. You just keep doing that until that is exactly factual, right? It's 100% accurate. And then you got your trunk and you move on. So
But how do you know that it's 100% factual at that
it's
point?
because it's trained to only use the information on which it was trained, meaning it cannot go outside of itself. And this is just a part of our standard training. You tell it you're only allowed to use the information on which you were trained. You cannot go outside of this information.
Mhm.
Normally it takes 3 times to get it completely right. And the other part is the workflow orchestrator will use what we have is a reflection tuned agent. And the reflection tuned agent is like the O1 model and the O3 model, except we did this months before O1 came out. And it was basically designed to tell it, you have 3 modes of operation. You're going to, come out with your initial response. You're then going to feed it back in a reflection phase, and then you're going to output the final result. So it goes through thinking and reflection and then final output. It
Mhm.
was when I tested O1 preview against mine was better. So it still functions properly. There's a lot of these other things like quality management expert, proposal strengths expert, compliance experts, and how these things are used is just the capabilities and purpose are known by the orchestrator, and it will decide. I'll go to this one, then this one, then this one, then I'll follow back with this one, and then do this one and this one. It's really, really interesting to see how you end up with a final solution.
That's amazing. What about in the core production work that you're bidding on? So,
So for every project we have, there's what's called a PWS and deliverables expert. So the PWS is a performance work statement. Every government contract has one. It's all the tasks and the personnel needed to perform the tasks
mhm.
and all the deliverables associated with that and the schedules and things like that. So literally anything that you ask of those experts for that particular program, they'll be able to formulate a response.
You're way ahead of the game, my friend.
I have never been in a more fun time of my career. And I worked for an innovation company for 21 years.
Yeah, I know.
All
I
we had to
remember.
do was create new markets and new products.
Yeah.
And we did that 5 times in 21 years, and that was a blast. But this is crazy.
So where's it headed next? Actually, I can ask it a different way. So at some point, the world is going to catch up with you and figure out something like the workflow orchestrator. But by then, you'll be on to something else. What's the else?
Okay, sipping a Mai Tai on an island somewhere.
I don't think you're going to want to stop having fun. So I don't believe that at all.
I don't know. I'm getting kind of tired. I told you in the first interview, you end up doing a lot more in the same amount of time, mentally exhausting.
So do you have any insight into where it's headed?
Well, there's a lot of talk, of course, about the AGI versus ASI, the artificial superintelligence. A lot of it's buzz right now. If you just look across industry, people are tying the different kinds of models together with physical systems now.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So
Robots, that's next. Now, did you see what happened with NVIDIA and the high power, small form factor supercomputer? It's
I
about the
thought,
size of a couple decks of playing cards.
yeah, I saw that they introduced it.
Yeah, I mean, it was designed for the idea of robotics, right? So that's going to be next, in my view. You're going to have, a lot of AI enabled robots helping out mankind. So
Well, hopefully helping out. There's a there's
I've
some
seen
other
that
scenario. I
lately.
appreciate you spending the time with me.
All right, no problem, Amy. Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. Take care. Enjoy the snow. Well, as you can tell, I'm very impressed with the work that Tom is doing, and I hope that you are as well. Quite a few very interesting things that I took away from that conversation. Of course, the AI Agent Workflow Orchestrator is very high on the list. And it really speaks to the future of AI, and it starts to explain why so many companies and so many investors are investing so much money into AI companies and into AI products in their own companies. Now, there's another aspect of what Tom shared with us, which I think is pretty subtle but equally important. I think that what Tom is doing here with all the agents that he's creating is he's taking the knowledge of how the work is done, which is often referred to as tacit knowledge, knowledge which is in our heads, but very often difficult to convey and difficult to write down. Well, through the agent training process, they've been able to take that tacit knowledge and make it explicit and make it shareable so that the knowledge in everyone's head in the company is now able to be shared automatically with the other people in the company, which is essentially a learning strategy, a knowledge creation strategy for the entire organization. What that means is that AI agents are making the people smarter. And that, of course, is proving to have immediate and direct consequences in getting rid of work that they don't like to do, but has to be done because AI agents can do it for them. This really speaks to the future of AI, and it's, I think, quite profound. Tom also mentioned at the end of the discussion about robots and how AI and robots are obviously the next step of the future merger of technologies. And the promise of robotics has been in our minds for nearly a century. The reality of robots able to do meaningful work for us and with us seems to be very, very soon in arriving. What Tom and ICS have learned about how to program agents, well, that's obviously going to be a big part of how we program our robots too, starting in another year or two, or maybe 3. So the purpose of this channel has been to illustrate the impact that AI is having and the consequences that it is having today and will have tomorrow for your organization's strategy. I really appreciate Tom spending the time with me to help me understand how he's using agents and the implications of what he's doing for all of us. And one final note, when I sent Tom a digital copy of the AI Future book, he naturally had one of his agents read it for him, and it found a whole bunch of typos and a few conceptual errors. So it improved our process. It made our process of editing the book that much easier. Thanks to Tom for that. And also thanks, more importantly, for a very, very interesting conversation.